presented to the British royal family as this idea of a royal reconciliation. And we have some of the top aides having these super secret meetings here in London.
Let's get one thing clear. Tom Bower is no random internet troll throwing shade for clout. He's an 85-year-old royal biographer with decades of experience tearing down glossy facades. This man has nothing left to lose and everything to say. When he opens his mouth about Meghan Markle, the world doesn't just lean in, they start scribbling notes. And his latest revelation? Oh, it's not just a sly jab, it's a full-on demolition job aimed at the very foundation of Meghan's carefully engineered image. At the heart of it all sits one chapter she's fought like hell to keep buried: the whispers surrounding her alleged yacht girl past. Now don't twist this. We're not here to shame someone's beginnings or mock ambition. The real issue is the cracks, the contradictions, the desperate attempts to control the narrative at all costs. Meghan's worked overtime to paint herself as the fairy tale outsider who fought her way into the royal spotlight with grit and grace. But Bower? He's ripping that story to shreds.
Conveniently packed, photographed, and every last detail in the Daily Mail. Tom Bower, what was your reaction when you saw those headlines?
I thought it was confection.
The contradictions stacked so high around Meghan are impossible to ignore. For years, she sold herself as Hollywood's scrappy underdog, the self-made starlet who clawed her way from obscurity to Buckingham Palace. But Bower claims her rise wasn't powered by pure talent. Oh no, it was lubricated by calculated networking, yacht parties with powerful men, and doors opened by connections most could never dream of. She denies it, of course, loudly, calling it sexist, dismissing it as defamatory gossip. But here's the thing. If these whispers have clung to her for over a decade, surviving every denial, don't you wonder why? Bower says it's because the stories fit into a bigger, undeniable pattern.
It was manipulation. I thought that it showed, firstly, Harry absolutely desperate. I thought that Meredith Maines, who is a very aggressive PR for the Sussexes.
That pattern? Ruthless image control, constant narrative reshaping, an obsession with how she's seen. And the second the spotlight burns too hot, the act crumbles. But Tom Bower doesn't stop at the yacht rumors. He goes deeper, much deeper, straight into Meghan's near-obsessive fixation on Princess Diana. And this is where the story turns downright chilling. Meghan, according to him, has tried to mirror Diana in everything: the clothes, the poses, the emotional fragility. But instead of capturing hearts, her attempts feel staged, forced, even theatrical. Why? Because authenticity can't be faked.
Got way beyond herself because she really doesn't understand the British royal family or Britain, but understands how to project her clients. And so I think she got it wrong by leaking it, or even letting anyone.
Diana's vulnerability was real, raw, and tragically human. Meghan? Too often, she looks like she's auditioning for the role of fragile victim in her own soap opera. Take the Oprah interview. That was supposed to be her mic drop moment, the one where she finally seized full control of her narrative. But instead, fact-checkers tore it apart in days. She claimed she'd never Googled Harry before they met, yet photos showed her wearing Diana's jewelry long before that first date. She painted royal protocol as some shocking new burden, but she already had royal-adjacent friends before Harry ever walked into the picture. The contradictions were glaring, and the fairy tale moment dulled almost instantly.
That was a great mistake. And I don't think it'll produce what they hope. And I think in the end, I don't think the Sussexes themselves know what they want anymore.
And Bower doesn't mince words. This isn't about one or two slip-ups. It's about the avalanche of lies. Stack enough of them, and eventually people stop believing anything. And when that happens, even the fairy tale marriage starts to look more like a staged performance. According to Bower, what looks like a dreamy Netflix-ready romance on the outside is, behind closed doors, little more than a fragile business arrangement. Worse, he claims Meghan has even used her daughter as a shield, strategically inserting her into the narrative to deflect criticism and harvest sympathy.
We've also seen, haven't we, the story by Vicky Ward in the Victoria Ward in the Telegraph, where they were talking about, you know, and that upset the palace quite a lot about talking about funeral arrangements and things.
And the cracks don't stop there. Behind the glossy PR smiles, insiders whisper about a widening emotional rift between Harry and Meghan, conflicting timelines about their early romance, photo ops that feel more desperate than genuine, carefully staged moments designed to cling to headlines. For a while, Hollywood played along. Meghan was royalty after all, and that carried serious cachet. She mingled with A-listers, walked elite carpets, and strutted into rooms like she belonged. But then, the shift. Invitations dried up. Producers whispered. Celebrities who once beamed next to her began keeping their distance. The shine wore off. And according to Bauer, that wasn't random. That was Hollywood doing what Hollywood does best, sniffing out dead weight and cutting it loose.
Legacy. And is this about looking like the bigger person? Because he preaches a lot about forgiveness. We heard him talk about open borders. Sometimes he's very kumbaya. And I wonder if he's trying to put his money where his mouth is.
One day, you're the darling underdog. The next, you're the punchline at industry dinners. Meghan thought her Duchess title was a golden ticket, guaranteeing her a permanent seat at Hollywood's table. But that chair? It's wobbling with every passing day. The sparkle's gone. Big producers who once begged for her attention now treat her like a liability. Not because she's untalented, but because she's unpredictable. And in Hollywood, unpredictability isn't edgy, it's toxic. Actors whisper she's impossible to work with. Directors sigh that she makes everything about herself. And once that kind of reputation sticks, it sticks like glue.
Because how can we take him seriously when he's meeting with Ukraine and Trump and trying to make peace as a global leader when he's not even at peace with his son?
Well, I think I disagree with you about that, because Charles, when he was the Prince of Wales.
Behind closed doors, the whispers turn into warnings. She brings drama everywhere she goes. And Hollywood? Oh, Hollywood knows how to play this game. They'll smile at you on the red carpet and then quietly scratch your name off the next invite list. Bauer argues this exile isn't personal, it's strategic. No one wants the chaos that follows in her shadow, and chaos is exactly what she's become, because Meghan's tried to be everything at once: the victim, the rebel, the feminist icon, the misunderstood royal, the fearless outsider, the doting mother. But the more masks she puts on, the faker it all feels, and audiences, they're catching on.
For anyone who said no to him. So he's a man who hates confrontation, and he has no forgiveness for people who don't agree with him. So I think the whole thing with Harry is it's guilt. I mean, it's guilt as a result of the divorce, the relationship with...
Audiences aren't stupid. People can smell emotional manipulation from a mile away. And Bauer's harshest blow? He says Meghan's entire existence now feels produced. Like a reality show running on autopilot. Nothing looks organic anymore. Every photo screams staged. Every statement sounds rehearsed. Even those casual paparazzi moments in California, Bauer swears they were tipped off. Instead of authenticity, everything reeks of focus groups and PR polish. And here's the cruel irony. The harder she pushes to look real, the faker she appears.
The fact that Harry is rather dim and he didn't look after him to make sure he had a role. But it was neglect as well in his teenage years when he was chasing Camilla and all the rest of it.
Club H.
Then comes one of Bauer's most chilling claims, that Meghan uses her children not as family, but as shields. Whenever the criticism gets too loud, suddenly the tabloids are flooded with glossy shots of Meghan baking with Lilibet or Harry chatting about Archie's bedtime stories. Sweet moments? Maybe. Strategic deflection? Bauer insists that's exactly what it is. And audiences are starting to resent it. What should be heartwarming feels manipulative, and that leaves a bitter aftertaste every single time. And still, hovering in the background is her Diana obsession.
Yeah. Well,
I must
say, Rob, when Harry made that dash to London, when the King revealed his cancer, to my surprise, Camilla was in the room for the 30 minutes. And she was there to make absolutely certain that Harry...
That's true.
You don't think she was there?
No, I don't. In fact, I'm pretty certain.
Bauer says it flat out. Meghan has studied Diana like a role she's desperate to master. The wardrobe, the angles, the teary-eyed poses, it's all part of the act. But where Diana's sorrow cracked hearts open, Meghan's version just cracks the illusion. Instead of sympathy, it sparks eye rolls. Diana was spontaneous, messy, and deeply loved. Meghan, in Bauer's eyes, is the opposite. Packaged, curated, and increasingly doubted. And the cruelest cut? She's lost the benefit of the doubt.
There's going to be a draw there.
And I think it's interesting because we always say, look at what he did to William and Catherine, and that is very important, and I believe it was cruel. You're suing all of these newspapers for leaking private information while publishing private text.
Now, people assume she's lying before she even finishes a sentence. Every fresh claim triggers instant skepticism. Every contradiction piles onto the mountain. When you earn a reputation for dishonesty, even your truths sound fake. And that, Bauer says, is Meghan's biggest tragedy. Not that she's flawed, everyone is, but that she's spent so long trying to fake perfection under the harshest spotlight in the world. And in the process, she's lost the only weapon that once made her powerful: public sympathy. Once upon a time, she was the outsider stepping into the world's stiffest monarchy. American, biracial, self-made, everything the royals were not. Back then, she symbolized change. Now, that glow has all but vanished.
Present moment is, I don't think he feels in any way guilty. I don't think Harry feels any remorse. And I think that is the key thing in all this reconciliation. He still thinks that he's owed an apology from Charles and from William for the way they've treated not only him but also Meghan.
That contrast, the rebel Duchess storming the palace, once made her irresistible. But over time, it collapsed under the weight of her own reinvention, not because of who she was, but because of what she kept pretending to be. Bauer doesn't sugarcoat it. He calls it exactly what it looks like: the collapse of a brand. Meghan stopped being seen as a person. She turned herself into a brand, and when that brand cracked, it all fell apart. Every interview, every partnership, every public appearance now looks engineered to sell an image. Glamorous yet relatable, royal yet rebellious, polished yet authentic. But when too many of those identities collide, people stop buying the story. And the collapse became undeniable when Spotify pulled the plug.
That will make the money. I mean, she's simply, she's got a brass neck, as we'd say. She really doesn't bother her. She can see this way. She's probably looked at the king selling his,
Spotify once dropped millions to give Meghan a global platform. But what did they get? Whispered complaints of fluff with no depth, of someone who barely lifted a finger. The deal fizzled, the project died, and the silence from Spotify was deafening. No farewell, no polite send-off, just gone. And in Hollywood, that's the loudest statement of all. Because if Spotify, a giant desperate for content, couldn't make it work with an actual duchess, why would anyone else risk their money or reputation? Then came Netflix, the supposed crown jewel, the glossy documentaries, the heavily hyped projects. But even there, cracks appeared. Numbers fell short. New projects fizzled. Executives started whispering the same complaints. Too controlling, too staged, too shallow. The shine of the Duchess brand was losing its grip. And even the royal family, famous for silence and diplomacy, have chosen the nuclear option. Erase her. Charles doesn't mention her. William won't speak her name. Kate ignores her existence entirely. Meghan isn't just the black sheep anymore. She's the family's Voldemort, the one you don't dare bring up. For the Windsors, pretending she doesn't exist is safer than engaging with the circus she brings. And on social media, it's merciless. Every interview she gives is chopped, mocked, memified. Old clips resurface again and again, dripping with sarcasm. The woman once hailed as a modern heroine is now a walking question mark. Even her defenders have gone quiet or turned critical. She isn't the hero, she isn't the villain, she's just unreliable. And in PR, that's lethal. Because when no one knows what to believe, they stop believing at all. And Bauer's sharpest line slices deepest. Her lies could flood the earth. It sounds dramatic, but in the gossip world, it hits home. Spin enough stories, and eventually the crowd tunes out entirely. And that's exactly where Meghan stands. From contradictions to staged photo ops, from failed projects to royal exile, the narrative has snowballed into a brutal conclusion. The brand is collapsing, and the fall is happening in real time. Once, Meghan believed she could control the story forever. That with the right lighting, the perfect angle, the carefully chosen headline, she could dictate how the world saw her. But the world has grown tired. Tired of angles, tired of PR, tired of a story that feels more scripted than sincere. What people crave now is something raw, something human. And Meghan, despite every staged effort, just doesn't deliver. the fairy tale is over. What's left is the fallout. And in Tom Bower's devastating view, that fallout isn't a bump in the road. It's the beginning of the end. Not the end of Meghan the person, but the end of Meghan the idea. The polished, carefully manufactured, endlessly curated Duchess she's tried to sell for years. And once that illusion shatters, no amount of PR spin can put it back together.